Freedom, freedom. Everybody wants freedom. To be free, not to work the 9 to 5 anymore. I hate working so much, but to be free and not to work that 9 to 5, everybody wants that. Freedom from sickness. Freedom from sorrow and pain and suffering and backbiting and betrayal. Man, I was reading what is it? The book of Luke. The book of Luke, the 21st chapter, about when Jerusalem is compassed with armies. And I found it interesting relating to today's signs and times, because pretty much Luke and Matthew 24, they run kind of parallel. And that's very interesting. When you read this, there's hope, and there's a matter of not being in the mindset of fear at the same time. And then there's the in-betweeners that they can give 2 SHs about scripture, which is a very foolish position to be in. And I'm looking at this, and maybe you had men and women in that mind frame back then. I'm sure you did. There's no new thing under the sun, scripture tells you, and we know the psyche of man in general. But in this case, I'm talking about our people, so-called blacks and Hispanics. We know how they think, and I'm sure there was a lot of them, well, whatever. This man says that Jerusalem shall fall, and the Romans, they have so much power. How could that ever be? The Roman army is here to stay, and at that time we knew we were Israelites, but why not do what the Romans do? Why not be freaks and pedophiles and money-hungry murderers? Why not be like, as in Rome, as in Rome, do as Romans do? Why not be in that mindset? I'm sure that same thing pertains to right now. Be like the white man, be like the American, be the full-blooded, wholeheartedly American. It's safer this way, and the money is going to come in this way, and I got to keep a roof over my head. But for how long? How long can you possibly stay in this particular mindset? Every great empire fell at one time. That's basic history 101. It's basic common sense 101. What makes you think this is going to continue? But nobody wants to look at reality, because if you look into reality, you have to conquer your fears. One, if you look into reality, you have to change your game, and your game has to be righteous. And some people refuse to do that because it requires a lot of pushback. But in the 20th verse of the 24th chapter of Luke, it says, 21st chapter of Luke, it says, when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. This is a little different from Matthew 24. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near. In other words, the destruction is near. When you see America threatened with missiles and nuclear attacks from Russia, when you see the value of the dollar, the American dollar, that good old American dollar, when you see the value of that going down, know that the desolation is there. Thereof, man. Thereof. When you see the state and the mindset of the children turn into whoredom, know that the desolation thereof is near. When you see job loss and inflation through the roof, and candidates running for presidents almost being assassinated. When you see the left against the right against the left, Democrats against Republicans, blacks against whites. Therefore, know that the desolation is near. And it says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. This is what we had to do. If you believed back then, I'm sure there was a lot of people who didn't believe and didn't choose to flee to the mountains, even though the Messiah warned that the desolation was near. He warned. People were happy and in cheerful moments. In their cheerful moments, sorry. Making money. Even though the Lord had prophesied that the desolation is near. Now today we're miniature lords. In other words, what the Messiah taught in that time, the warning he gave about the destruction and desolation of Judea at that time, we're warning that the same thing's going to happen in America today. And I'm sure that people look at it like it's a joke and it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. And you don't need a Bible to know this. You see it. You see this country going through signs and times that if you're unspiritual, you can't explain. And in one case, you thought it would never come to this point. But the Most High sent his son down on earth at that time, and his son warned the people to flee out of Jerusalem. Today, we're warning the people spiritually to flee out of America. Flee out of this system, period. That's all over the world where our people are scattered. And when you read on, it says, and let them which are in the midst thereof depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein. Don't invest in America spiritually. Don't invest. This is why the Lord said, come ye out of her, my people, and be not partakers of her sins. Here it's saying, leave Judea, leave this particular part of land which was occupied by the Romans. Today, it's America. Today is where we're scattered at. We're pleading with our people in the spirit of the Most High, Yahweh, to come out of the mindset of the heathen, of the enemy, of the so-called European, of the so-called African, of the so-called East Indian, Japanese, Chinese. Come back to the Most High and flee spiritually out of this system, because the destruction is therefore near of, man. And the 22nd verse says, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written, may be fulfilled. It's going to be a hell of a day when that happens, man. And you got so many unbelievers right now. They don't give a damn, man. They don't care. They think that this is going to continue forever. You know, I was on a page the other day and I kept mentioning about the Great Reset. The Great Reset. And the more I tried to explain it, the more these Negroes got mad. The more they got more combative. But they pro-black. These are pro-black for the people. But it just showed and opened my eyes that these guys are nothing but a bunch of phonies. And you had phonies today and during the time of the Roman siege or onslaught of Jerusalem at that time. You had Negroes in that same mindset. They did not want to let go back then, 70 AD, from 68 AD to 70 AD, and they don't want to today. No. I guarantee it was the same way back then. 23rd verse says, but woe unto them that are with suck, and them that give suck in those days. For there shall be a great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. 24th verse says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Whose sword? The Roman sword, because they were in the power seat at that time. But the Lord said they would fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captives into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now we're in a time where the same Gentiles, or the children of those Gentiles, are about to be judged. That's the time we're in now, because there's no new thing under the sun. The same way The same way they ruled over us in the past, they rule over us now. Same way. And we had Black Panthers and hit squads and revolutionaries back then that hated the Romans. They hated the Romans and they hated the Uncle Tom Hebrew sellouts in that time. No new thing under the sun. This white man, he's always had power. Well, not always, but he's had power over us for so long. And we've been programmed and trained to do the wrong thing or live the wrong ways for so long. This is why the Most High said he has to wash the filth off of us. The filth of idolatry and pagan, wicked customs. These things have to be washed off of us because we became so filthy spiritually by picking up bad spiritual habits. And some of us, the doctrines and the witchcraft and the evil is so ingrained in us, so embedded in us, we're never going to let that go, man. The Lord said the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, and the wicked would rule this earth and prosper in wickedness based on prophecy until the Lord's vengeance drops and people are forced to acknowledge the Most High. Luke 2 verse 1, and it came to pass in those days, that's the key word, in those days. In the other chapter, Luke 24, in the 23rd verse, it says, but woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days, the days of the Lord's vengeance. There shall be great distress in the land, and the wrath upon the people. What people? The people or the children of Israel. But the key thing is in those days, when the Lord brings the destruction. In Luke 2:1, this is prior to those days, showing you that one people had power over another people in those days. The Romans had power over us in those days. And when the destruction came, the Romans had that power and put the sword on us in those days. In these days, the children of the Romans have power over you again. But in those days, it says in Luke 2:1, and it came to pass in those days they went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed, just like now. Now the value of the American dollar is becoming diluted. The heathens, the very heathens that were once a part of this European man that oppresses us and destroyed us as a people, have turned against him. And now you have BRICS and you have different countries trying to come against the petrodollar and turning against America and making her weak. So America's mad and she's doing her dirt and trying to offset the evil that's against her by her enemies, her new but old enemies. And all hell is breaking loose. But they went out a decree, meaning a law or a commandment by Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed, the conquered world, the world that they ripped off, robbed, stole, and put the sword on those people at that time. Or times past, and built up an empire known as Rome. Then we read on, it says, and this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone in his own city. See that? Everybody had to pay tribute to the Edomites, aka also known as so-called white people or so-called Europeans at that time. No new thing. So I'm just trying to show you that in today's times with the value of the dollar going down, with war and rumors of war like it states in the same book of Luke as well as Matthew 24, that we in the time of the Lord's vengeance. See? In the 9th verse it says, but when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars and commotions, be not terrified. In Matthew it says, be not troubled. So the followers and the spiritual men and women and children, they're not going to be terrified because they have a heads up. The Most High says, be not terrified, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. 10th verse says, then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse, meaning different places, and famine and pestilence and fearful sights. See? And fearful sights and great signs shall be from the heavens. See? All the evils that we see on earth comes from where? The heavens. But the Most High tells us not to be terrified. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilence and fearful sights and great signs shall they be from heaven. So we know what's up. We know what's coming. We know. But at the same time, America must fall, and we're going to see so much things we never thought would happen to America. We're going to see so many pains and anguishes and suffering before the great judgment day. But I'm just trying to show you the same way the Most High warned us as a people. Now the tables have turned, and we're warning our people who are in the midst of an evil people. We're warning our people that these very people who the Most High gave power to, they're going to lose that power. And before they lose that power, the very verse that we just read, the very last two verses we read, all those things will come to pass. The 10th and 11th verse will come to pass about the nations rising up against nations, and wars and rumors of wars and great signs and terrible things and fearful sights. We're warning our people who are in the midst of the enemy that these things are going to happen before we are delivered out of here. In the same way we didn't listen during the time of Christ and the time after he died, and when we were commanded to warn our people what would happen to Jerusalem, and they didn't listen, they fell by the edge of the sword, you're going to have a lot of brothers and sisters who will fall by the sword. Check it out.
The States is in a declining position in the world economy. It has been, but now it's being felt. You could pretend it wasn't there. You could deny it. There are plenty of people who do that still. But it's getting harder and harder.
He said you could deny it, and that's what's happening. A lot of people, they're denying what's happening. If you don't believe black men in robes and turbans with Bibles and staffs in their hands saying it, your daddy, the white man, he's telling you that you're denying what's coming. The great white man is telling you that something is around the bend. Something is looming ahead of us or above us that's going to fall, and it's going to catch a lot of people off guard.
The United States is in a declining position in the world economy. It has been, but now it's being felt. You could pretend it wasn't there. You could deny it. There are plenty of people who do that still. But it's getting harder and harder as these tariffs and sanctions all show. That's the most important thing to understand. Every country in the world, and I want to underline, every, is rethinking its entire foreign economic policy.
And you hear that? Because it's affecting everybody. That's why the Most High said earthquakes in different places, and pestilence. In Ezekiel 7, it tells you that they shall cast their gold in the streets. And even while all this is going on, the unbelievers will try to convince you that everything is going the same, everything is just as it was. It's a lie.
Your political alliances, look at the departure of Americans from Niger in Africa and being replaced by Russian troops. These are all signs. You'd have to be really blind or desperate not to see all that's going on.
hear what the man said? You have to be blind or desperate. I call it desperately wicked not to see what's going on, man. You have to be desperately wicked not to see what the hell is going on. Desperately wicked. If you can't see that people, not just in America, all over the world are afraid. The question is, are you afraid? Or are you hiding from reality? I'm out.